Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. We start this segment with an update on scores in Friday's games in the UEFA Nations League. Let's have a look at them now. Italy 1-1 with Bosnia-Herzegovina. Poland beaten 1-0 by the Netherlands, who got their goal from Steven Bergwijn, the 22-year-old Tottenham man. In League B, Norway losing 1-2 at home to Austria. Northern Ireland 1-1 with Romania. Scotland 1-1 with Israel. Slovakia beaten 3-1 by the Czech Republic. In League C, Kazakhstan 2-0 over Lithuania. And Albania beat Belarus by 2-0. Leagues A, B and C matches there in the European Nations League. I think there were some more results to come, are they? Oh, that's it for today. I thought you were going to give me the Spain-Germany result, 1-1. Timo Werner, the new Chelsea man, getting Germany's goal there. Now we continue, so after much debate, speculation, countless theories and opinion, Lionel Messi says he will be staying with Barcelona next season, or this coming season. Late last month, the 33-year-old sent a burofax to club bosses saying he wanted to leave on a free transfer after 20 years at the club. But in an interview with Goal.com in Spain today, Messi, Barcelona's greatest ever player, said he was motivated to leave by the failure of the club president to keep his word. I thought and was sure that I was free to leave. The president always said that at the end of the season, I could decide if I stayed or not. Now they cling to the fact that I did not say it before the 10th of June, when it turns out that on June 10th, we were competing for LaLiga in the middle of this awful coronavirus, and this disease altered all of the season. And this is a season why, or this is the reason why I'm going to continue in the club. Now I'm going to continue in the club because the president told me that the only way to leave was to pay 700 million euros because of that clause, and that this is impossible. Now, Messi said that despite his strong desire to leave, he had no intention of using the court to force his departure. There was another way, he said, and it was to go to trial. I would never go to court against Barca because it is the club that I love, which gave me everything since I arrived. It's the club of my life. I have made my life here. Barca gave me everything, and I gave it everything. I know that it never crossed my mind to take Barca to court. So that is the latest story coming out of the Catalan giants on this Friday, with Lionel Messi now saying that he's willing to stay, but against his wishes, and it really is because of the court issue and his lack of desire to go that route that is forcing him to change his mind and opting to stay.
Yeah, well, we called it exactly like this earlier this week when we said we were exploring the options, and I said that there's no way he would take the club to court because the man loves the club. The club has given him everything, and that fact is not lost on him, notwithstanding his anger at the club president and the club hierarchy and the bad decisions they've made. He will never do anything to damage his standing with the club directly, and he will never do anything to cause Barcelona to be the laughing stock of La Liga, to be ridiculed or mocked by their rivals in Spain. And it's understandable and utterly predictable that he would have chosen not to take a route that would lead him and Barcelona to court to fight out the terms of his departure, or whether he could leave any at all. So good sense has prevailed. I always expected that he would have stayed at Barcelona. I said that right here, and this is what I expected would have happened, because the club would have played hardball. They would have dangled the prospect of court. He would have shied away from court, and they'd have trapped him for another year at least.
Yeah, and of course during this process, which was well, not as protracted as I thought it could have been, a lot of eager Manchester City fans, George, really drooling over the possibility of Lionel Messi coming to the English Premier League and suiting up with the light blues.
Yeah, well, look, the monies that Messi would have cost, not even City would pay that money. People keep talking about who can afford it. Afford means that you can spend the money and then be in a position to explain it away along the lines of financial fair play. Manchester City couldn't do that. And the key factor in all of this, and I've maintained that from the start, Messi's age. If Messi was under 30 or even 30 years old, we wouldn't be having any of these conversations that we've had. And if he was under 30, clubs that have the capacity to pay would have broken the bank or broken 10 banks to get him. He's 33. People will want him, but they want him to come on a free transfer. Nobody is going to pay the eye-watering sum of money it will cost to take Messi from Barcelona.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Now, joining us to talk about this developing story is our Latin American football expert, Juan Arango. Juan is a correspondent with the Barcelona-based daily sports newspaper, Diario Sport. And Juan, how does this Messi pronouncement grab you today?
Hey guys, and I don't think it's if you look at it coldly, it's not something that you would definitely be shocked over. I think it's like George said, colder or cooler heads prevailed in this particular one because Messi doesn't want to leave a bad image. He doesn't want to have his legacy tarnished. While Barcelona's board is willing to go down that route to find him in a position where he finds himself, where he has to tarnish his image. There's also players like him at his age that are going to attract attention. But like George also mentioned, they're not going to be paying 200, 300, 400 million euros for him at his age, at 33 years of age. That's not going to be the case. So he didn't have many options. And it was interesting to hear him say that about the Bureau facts, that it was a way to get attention from Bartomeu because he was not paying attention to him. He wasn't really giving him any never mind in terms of this particular subject. He talked about how at the beginning of the season, he was so willing to leave to experience new opportunities, but yet he was being ignored, and he saw that as a way to do it. Now, all the consequences that came after that should have also been measured and should have also been advised on his end as well.
Yeah, Juan, when we spoke to you on this issue, when the story just broke, you were convinced at that point that his position appeared to you to be irreversible, partly because of some comments that Ronald Koeman, the new coach, had said. Were you able to verify those comments by Koeman? Because by the very nature of what he said about Messi not being a privileged player anymore, would have been very caustic or even toxic in the ears of a Lionel Messi.
It was, and Messi's also known to be an explosive player. So at times, when he speaks, it's that the lid's about to blow off, and we've seen it. He doesn't go out and talk all that much, but when he does bring the hammer down. He doesn't seem to be in the best terms with Ronald Koeman. We have to see how things develop in this relationship, first and foremost. But second of all, we have to start looking at what he's seen around him, seeing a player like Luis Suarez leave, seeing players that are being, I guess, left along the wayside, that have been integral to Barca's side with not much of a replacement, not much of a rotation, not much of change that has been going on. If you start to analyze the starting 11 that we will be playing in a couple of weeks' time against Villarreal in their first match of the season, you start to say, well, there's not much of a change. There's not much of a variation in their lineup. So why are they getting rid of players if there's no optional pieces that can give better functionality to the team? Now, that being said, Messi understands the situation that he's in. He was very clear as to what he sees in terms of the disaster that has been the Barcelona board and the decision-making processes, both past and present as well. So there's a lot to do. Maybe it's not just Koeman, but it has been a summation of a lot of things that have occurred in the past couple of seasons that have led to this point.
A few things, Juan. Firstly, given the saga of this period, and I see you taking a sip of that drink. You brought it with you when we worked at 2018 FIFA World Cup at Kia headquarters. Yeah, it was a hit with the people who were wondering what you were drinking. But nevertheless, we leave it like that.
Just don't tell anyone.
Does Messi retain the club captaincy first?
If he doesn't, I think the only option would be Piqué or Sergio Busquets. And if we saw how Sergio Busquets was performing with Spain just the other day, I don't think that you will see much or as much of Sergio Busquets. Maybe Gerard Piqué would be the option if it comes to that point. But if it does come to that point, you will start to have a lot of fans go against Ronald Koeman, start to go against the board yet again, because of how clear and how, I guess, transparent, I guess, for lack of a better term, Messi was today in his point of view, whether he was right or whether he was wrong. But if he does have that captaincy removed, there better be a very good explanation as to why.
So if Messi is no longer captain, do you think Messi will relinquish the captaincy, or do you think they'll be brave enough to take it off him?
I don't know if he'll relinquish it at this point, and not because he might not want to. If he's faced in a situation where he has to take it away, I don't know if anybody else wants to take it, other than Gerard Piqué or maybe Marc-Andre ter Stegen at this point, or as I mentioned before, Sergio Busquets. And I don't know if they want to be in that particular situation. We'll have to see. Everything's going to come to a head when he comes into that training ground for the first time. I think it would be either tomorrow or Sunday when he has to get all the PCR, all the coronavirus testing procedures out of the way and start training with Barcelona. That will be a very interesting scenario if it does get to that point. But to me right now, I think Messi stays with the captaincy. He is that emblematic, he is that talismanic player, he is that leader. Whether he has a very different definition of what a leader is, I think he's going to stay with the captain's armband until something happens.
In his interview, and I know, well, it would be fair to say I don't know Spanish, but I know enough Spanish from reading things over the years and watching Spanish football commentary to be able to make my way through, to fudge my way through. So I had to get help from Guillem Balagüe to translate what Messi was saying in that interview with Goal.com. And I heard him say, Juan, and you of course, are a fluent Spanish speaker, so you tell me if I got it wrong. I heard him say something to the effect that this saga has helped him to know effectively who his friends were, as if some of the people who he thought had his best interest at heart would have come out in support of him or would not have said the damaging things that they have said about him. I know he must be talking about some people in the media, some commentators, some opinion makers, but I'm wondering if he's looking inside this Barcelona squad, because Luis Suarez has spoken out in endorsement of Messi at his position after Carlos Puyol's tweet about Messi, supporting Messi. Suarez liked the Puyol tweet. But when you look inside the dressing room, you see people with the political capital of Gerard Piqué, Sergio Busquets, not using an ounce of that capital to say anything in support of Messi and his position. Was Lionel Messi looking inside the team, looking at players like Piqué and Busquets and say, I thought you guys were my friends. You said nothing during this whole ordeal, and I may hold that against you. Am I right?
You're not far off, man. You are absolutely not far off on that. And when he said that, that was the first thing I thought. I mean, not only just journalists and teammates, but also people within the board that have come out and spoken. People that have been really close to Barcelona throughout the years, Josep Maria Minguella, who went out in the media and started talking all the time, Joan Gaspar, the former Barcelona president. There's a lot of people that you can come out and say, you know what, it might have been aimed at him, it might have been aimed at this person, it might have been aimed at this group. And that's going to be something that we start to look at in the coming weeks as part of that drama, as part of that ongoing soap opera, which has a very interesting date coming in the next few weeks. Two of them, as a matter of fact. October, the board meeting to approve next year's budget. That might force Bartomeu out prematurely. And number two, the January transfer window.
One final thing, Juan, and you are close to the action. You work for a leading sports daily in Spain, after all. I think, from my vantage, that Lionel Messi's father, who is his agent, I'm trying to find a euphemistic way to put this, but that's not me, so I don't know why I'm even bothering to try. I think he's a bit of a simpleton, Juan. I think that had Messi had a proper agent, he wouldn't have been badly advised about the terms of that contract and when that contract expired, thus triggering the clause which he leaned on in his burofax, and that the meeting subsequent to all of that drama, the meetings that have been had between his father/agent and Bartomeu would have probably yielded something more concrete and given him a more stronger appearance in these discussions, rather than making him seem as if he has had to back down because he got the premise of his move to leave wrong. I'm saying that happens because his father, who's in his position, I mean, how skilled do you have to be to negotiate terms for the best player probably in the history of club football? Anybody could do that. So I'm saying that the lack of a proper agent and someone with the skill to negotiate has perhaps harmed Lionel Messi, and maybe Jorge Messi is really a simpleton, Juan Arango. What say you?
There's a lot to that, yes. And it's not just him, though. It's his brother too, Rodrigo, who was part of the negotiations. So it's been kept within the family. They've hired a board of lawyers. Now, here's where my uncertainty lies. We know everything that was going on with this coronavirus since what, George? February, March. We knew that it was coming to an end, I guess, middle of March or so. If you have a stoppage of play and you know that most likely things are going to extend themselves past a certain date within your contract, you, George Davis, even Lance Whitaker, would you start to talk to the big heads at SportsMax and say, hey, by the way, my contract ends here. What if this extends into, I don't know, June, July? Do I keep going? What's going to be my situation there? Don't you tend to want to do that? Trying to clear up, hey, by the way, we do have a clause here in my contract that states this and this and that. What if I do want to activate it? Is it going to be able to be activated at the end of the season, whenever it is, June, July, August, whenever it ends up being? Or is it going to be a hard date on June 10th or whatever the date it was? Because there is a rule within the Spanish government, and you start looking at it as far as Spanish law is concerned, and it's called contract shall be served. It's in Latin, of course, and it says that it pretty much works on hard dates, and that's where Messi's, I guess, downfall ends up being in this whole contract dispute, and that's where Jorge Messi doesn't look over. He ended up sending another burofax out today saying that, we don't recognize this contract because it wasn't put in good faith, because the contract was done in May and the season extended into the end of the season, into August. So there's a lot of things that went on here that Jorge Messi and company did not look. And I guess Leo ends up doing things a bit in the heat of the moment and then has to end up backtracking significantly, although he ends up giving decent, legitimate explanations. Still looks pretty bad in front of the fans at the end of the day.
Juan, as we break, I can list a write a laundry list of agents who this wouldn't have happened to. Pini Zahavi, it wouldn't have happened to him. Gareth Bale's agent, Jonathan Barnett, it wouldn't have happened to him.
Imagine Mino Raiola.
George Mendes, Kia Jarabchi, and I could go on and on and on. Yeah, it's a simpleton. Anyway, we have to leave it there.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, you have a legitimate point there if it would have happened elsewhere, or if you wouldn't gotten to this point. To be
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time, man. We'll talk again.
All right, see you later.
Yep, that's our Latin American Spanish football expert, Juan G. Arango. Break time.